Despite geopolitical tensions that continue to shape international trade, the latest figures show trends turned positive in the first quarter of this year. And Turkey is one of the countries enjoying an increase in its exports, marking an almost 4% growth in the same period. This promising surge also highlights the growing economic ties between Ankara and London. The UK's total import of Turkish goods exceeded $1.2 billion in July, which has increased way over $300 million compared to the same period last year. While automotive became the highest performing sector, Istanbul was the country's top exporting city to the United Kingdom, contributing nearly $500 million. Germany is the second largest destination buying Turkish products, with other major markets, including the UAE and the US, says the Turkiye Exporters Assembly. Other data shows Turkish exports to the Shanghai Cooperation Organisation countries have skyrocketed 85% in the past 5 years. With these growing figures, could Turkey cement its position as a key player in the global trade landscape? And for more on Turkey's trade with its key partners, joining me now from London is Maurizio Zanardi. He is a professor and a member of UK Trade Policy Observatory at the University of Sussex. And from St. Gallen, Switzerland, Guido Cosi. He is a professor of macroeconomics at St. Gallen University. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. Guido, the latest UN figures on trade and development suggest global trade is expected to reach $32 trillion this year. So the question is, what's the reason behind this positive trend in global markets amid rising geopolitical risks and ongoing conflicts?
Well, there are reasons of optimism, and actually this is finally the result of the post-COVID recovery, because trade interruptions, supply chains interruptions, and uncertainty overall were restraining trade until now. So now it's finally restarting. And the geopolitical risk is still there, but it has been metabolized too. So there is some room for mild optimism on the trade side.
So, Maurizio, how do markets remain, let's say, immune to global volatilities, and where does the surge in exports from China, India, and the United States stand in this picture?
Well, in a way, following up from what Guido was saying, markets are resilient because a lot of this is metabolized, to use his words, which in other words means that they are already pricing it in their export and pricing decisions. That doesn't mean that there is not some turbulence or that the markets are expecting that more may come, but for sure we are not going to see major changes on a month-to-month, while in general there is this optimism. Of course, there are some clouds closer or on the horizon, and we shall see how they materialize if they do.
So, Guido, Turkey has also marked an almost 4% growth in its exports in the first quarter of this year. So what are the driving forces behind the Turkish economy?
Well, certainly this is the silver lining of the currency depreciation. But also demand is recovering outside, and also there has been a lot of infrastructure investment in Turkey, and now they can produce a lot and of good quality. So I think it is a very promising trade partner, for example, for Europe.
Before moving to Europe, Maurizio, besides its traditional trade partners, Turkey's exports to Shanghai Cooperation Organisation countries increased by a record 85% in the past 5 years. So how is Turkey's political and economic diversification push affecting the economic landscape in the wider region?
Well, in the wider region, it is affecting because it is a bridge between the East and the West. So it is super important in this dimension. And also, it has a relatively balanced geopolitics. When all other countries were closing to China, Istanbul was still neutral. So I think this is going to affect, and this is going to increase, give it a fundamental role also in the neighbor regions. Also, more closely, Turkish is very active in the MENA region, for example. So foreign policy helped a lot too.
So, Maurizio, Turkey's exports to the UK surged past $1.3 billion in July. How much of an increase are we talking about here? Is this a significant one?
So I would say it is a significant one. However, we should always be cautious that it's only 1 month. So the question is, what is the long-term effect? And on this side, on top of the depreciation of the Turkish lira, there is also the positive news just out earlier today that the UK economy is growing. And as a result of our earlier elections in July, there is a more positive optimism on this side as well, which of course is going to increase imports across the board, most likely in order to fulfill the orders that British firms need, and that will also reflect positively on Turkey.
So naturally, you're cautiously optimistic, but what's the reason behind this strong demand for Turkish goods, and what specific sectors you think come to the fore?
Well, the sectors are the usual suspects when we talk about the United Kingdom, in the sense that the automotive sector is taking the lion's shares of the imports, and that feeds into global value chains in the car industries, which have been the topic of significant discussion and political debates recently because of the effect of Brexit on the integration of British manufacturing companies. Now, of course, here we have to remember that Turkey is not part of the European Union at the moment, but you do have a customs union with the European Union, and this agreement has also been extended as part of the Brexit deal to the United Kingdom. So in a way, all of these aspects come together to explain the growth that we have seen in the recent statistics that you presented.
So Guido, apparently both countries enjoy strong economic ties and are about to finalize a modernized free trade agreement between them. So what's the latest on the trade talks? Do you have any information?
Well, the trade talks are going and ongoing. The big news is the change in the British government. So now it changed focus, and the talks are reflecting the philosophy of the Labour Party at the moment, which is more careful to sustainability, labor conditions, and human rights. On the one side, the United Kingdom has more flexibility thanks to Brexit, because they can negotiate much more easily than the European Union. However, the alignment with the European values that we have now with the new British government will probably end up with a deal that could be a template for a modernization of the European Union trade relationships with Turkey and future agreements. So I think this agreement is going well. Is going in a direction that could have a strong impact on trade between Turkey and the European Union itself, in addition, on top of the United Kingdom.
So, Maurizio, you briefly mentioned, but how has Brexit added to Britain's drive to pursue more independent trade talks with non-EU nations? I mean, has it proven to be advantageous for the UK so far?
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on who you ask the questions, but my guess is that most economists will say that we left what was the most important of our trade partners, as in total the European Union. And although the British government, the previous British government, has signed trade agreements with other countries beyond the EU, these countries in terms of size are very small. In a way, therefore, a stronger relationship with Turkey will be important. And here, however, the optimism of the new brought about by the new governments must be tempered by the fact that this new government has a lot of things to do, and even thinking of international trade and trade policy has a lot of dimension to deal with. So the Labour government wants a realignment with the European Union. That is going to take time, is also going to take resources. So in the same way that a renewed partnership with Turkey could be the template for the EU, things may also go in the other way around, and in a way, depending on which priorities the British government will put first, may delay or make up for time in other trade agreements negotiations.
So Guido, what would this free trade agreement cover beyond the existing sectors? I mean, what other areas will it expand on?
most importantly, it will be the introduction of the service sectors because the current agreement is about goods. However, now it's opening to services, and services are very important in the UK, but also elsewhere in the advanced countries. And also in Turkey, it's expanding. Moreover, it is a sector that is very important for the demand of labor for women. Let's not forget that in Turkey, for every 2 men, there is only 1 woman occupied. So expanding the service sector will be super important. So finance, consulting, technology, and also the green sectors as well. So it may increase the female labor force participation in the longer run. Also considering that the new government has a more inclusive philosophy than the previous governments. This is, I think, something that may take some time. Of course, I agree with Maurizio that it will take time, but the countries are moving in the right direction.
But Maurizio, it'll take time. But what are some sticking points standing in the way of a new deal, and how will it be different than the previous ones?
Well, here there are some logistical aspect and then political aspect. On the logistical aspect, I mean, the Turkey is a member of a customs union with the European Union, so whatever Turkey is doing must be somewhat aligned, and in some areas more than in others, with the commitments with the European Union. What is interesting is that clearly the UK will care about imports of especially car and vehicle sectors, and improving exports of services. And so here is interesting because here we are talking where the importing and exporting sectors are different across the 2 countries, and so a deal must be reached across different sectors. That to me is an opportunity in the sense that it is an opportunity to improve on efficiency and synergies between the 2 countries. My concern is that from a political perspective, it may require a little more convincing on each side, from the government representative to the industry representatives, because someone will gain and someone will lose, but these are dispersed across different sectors.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.